You alright guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm going to briefly tell you how to change the turbo actuator on a Freelander 2. Basically, long story short, I didn't really have enough time to do a proper video, which was quite annoying because we were on the lead up literally a week before Land Rover Owner Show International. We were meant to be on the Muddy Freelander stand, and I thought we was actually going to let Shell and Warren down because our car, I think it probably has a lot to do with the mud run. But I think this part in particular, sorry, I think it was going to give up anyway, regardless if we did the mud run at Billin at Muddy Weekender or if we didn't. Maybe it was just freak chance that this happened to go up the Swanee when it did. Quite lucky actually, because it gave us just enough time to be able to rectify the issue. When it comes to codes for this issue, there's a whole array of codes related to like the turbo area, and I don't think the codes necessarily say turbo actuator. A lot of them say different variation of like turbo blah 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 blah, and there's a P0 code associated with it. Waffling aside, I'm going to tell you how to change one of these. The most important bit, if you want to get a replacement of one of these actuators, it's not just a case, it's not one of them parts you can just type it into Euro car parts and just go buy, that's the one. Like an oil filter, for example. There's a bit more to them, and I don't know, I got a bit paranoid because we got ours from Turbo Veins. I think it's turboveins.com or something like that, and on their website they have a whole section dedicated to these actuators for the Freelander 2, and there's like 9 different types or something like that. The most important numbers you want to take a look at on ours, there's like 761963. I don't know if that linked to much. There's also 6NW009483. I thought that was quite a unique number. Turned out not to be the case. That seemed to be linked to quite a few of them. Then looked at on the top, because apparently that 6NW number and the G, we've got G52 on the top of ours. They're meant to match like the actuator you're going to buy. Annoyingly though, I emailed Turbo Veins and said to them, which one do I need? Sent them the VIN number for the car, registration and the year of the car, and they come back with, oh, it's this one. So I had quite a lot of faith in that. So when I eventually got this removed, I did trust their judgment, and then got really paranoid because our one was a G52 and the one I'd ordered was a G62. Apparently, I think it's something like the G32, the G52 and the G62 are all the same. They're just superseding numbers, and G62 potentially the latest iteration. I don't know how it works. Safe to say the one that they sent was actually the right one. But getting on to how to remove this turbo actuator, in terms of difficulty, it's not that difficult as far as jobs go. It's just awkward, and you have to do a lot of feeling. Like a lot of jobs on this car, it's not necessarily seeing. A lot of times it's feeling where things are because you just can't see. And the placement of this is quite awkward overall. It's somewhere kind of, it's through the wheel arch. You can see this through the driver's side wheel arch, well, the back of it, this section. You can see the plug that goes onto it. Unfortunately, all the bolts that go into it are on the technically wrong side, and it's very awkward to reach in and reach round to be able to get to them. But if you're an amateur mechanic like I am and like Alana is, then it's not too bad of a job. Unfortunately, Alana couldn't help me with this because she was busy working, because it was in the week and I had to get on with this job, so I took it on myself to go alone. So the first step you want to do, get the car. It's really helpful if you can have the car off the road for a few days or so while you get this one off, while you get the new one ordered, and then get the new one on. Obviously, if push comes to shove, then you could risk it, but don't blame me if you buy the wrong one, because just because I brought this one doesn't mean you should buy the same one as me, because I don't know if different actuators fit different years of Freelander 2. You see, I'll just give a quick description of what happens. If you try and get this through Land Rover, I've heard that they won't actually sell this on its own. They will sell you the whole turbo and actuator, because as far as they're concerned, the actuator should stay paired up with the turbo. They're kind of mated for life almost. So if your actuator goes, as far as they're concerned, you throw the actuator away, you throw the turbo away, and turbo and actuator, £2,000–3,000 to buy. Yeah, pretty expensive for what is a little box and probably a circuit board. So obviously make sure you get the right one for your car. The one thing I will say, I know there's a lot of waffle before I've actually told you how to fix it, but I just want to get a few things out there so you don't end up following my advice, cost yourself money you probably don't need to. The other thing you could try, obviously if your hoses are all fine, they're not leaking, and it's not the turbo, because let's face it, like I said, the turbo is unlikely to be the cause unless it's high mileage or it's been abused. The other thing you could try, which is a really free fix, is to take the arm off of this actuator. Do not do this with the arm attached to the actuator, because you will break this part of the actuator. I don't know, I think people say that it's on the worm drive or something. It's like a potentiometer or something like that. I'm not intelligent enough to know all these details, but take the arm off of this before you move the arm. Most important thing. And also probably buy a few spare C-clips, because they'll probably ping into the middle of nowhere. You'll never see it again, and once you've lost the C-clip, the arm will not stay on here. Take the C-clip off, give the arm a little move up and down. See if it's actually I think it's the vein, the arm connects to the turbo vanes or something like that. Basically, I think it's like a door that shuts and opens. So as you drive, this basically moves up and down, which then moves the arm, which then closes and opens the turbo, something like that. I'm sure people down in the description below will come up with a much more intelligent answer than what I have. But where the turbos don't get used hard enough, when I actually looked at the dials on Torque Pro on my phone when I had the OBD pushed in, the only time this turbo really gets used hard is when you foot down in like second, third gear, low down about 1,500 revs, you push in like, I think it's like 20 odd psi of pressure through the turbo or something like that. And then after that sort of period, even if you're high up in the rev range in 4th, 5th, 6th, it generates about 8 to 10 psi. So you get an idea, especially if you do a lot of motorway miles. The actuator is not really doing much work, the flap's not opening and closing much, it's kind of sitting there doing that sort of movement where it's just doing little bits, not big movements, so it kind of clears the way of any carbon deposits or such like. So over a period of time, like I say, this car's done almost 160,000 miles on it. The carbon deposits build up, and where it doesn't move frequently enough, it then stops it moving, could get stuck, and then eventually it could throw it into limp mode or have just issues generally with acceleration, which then puts a code on the issue. It could just be the arm. So yeah, I'll get to it when we get to the point in this part of removing it, and give it an exercise, see if that fixes the problem. It'd be nice if actually you could operate this from like an OBD thing, like you could say it's open fully, open close with the ignition on, but not with the engine running. That'd be quite a cool feature, but I don't think that's possible. I could be wrong. So yeah, getting onto the procedure. I know I waffled a lot there, I apologise, but I want to get a lot of information into this video as much as possible. Get your car up on axle stands, get it as high as possible. I mean, if you've got a ramp, this is one of them jobs that if you've got a ramp that you can lift the car on, it'll be an easy peasy job, because access becomes so much better. But if, like me, you're doing it on your back, on your driveway in the cold, it does make it a lot more difficult. So it depends on your tools, it depends on your location, but most people should be able to do this job if they're careful enough. So yeah, get the car up on axle stands, make sure it's nice and safe, and then get underneath it. I think cars without sump protectors, there's a plastic bit that covers the towing eye, get that removed, get the under tray removed. And I also took the driver's side wheel off. You don't need to, it's not essential, but I tried, where I had the car in the driveway, I was stuck between a fence and the car, so it just made sense to give myself as much room as possible so I could get as much visibility in there as possible. So I took the driver's side wheel off, and then when you take the driver's side wheel and you look deep in, you'll see the back of this with a plug on it. Don't worry about that for now. The video that I watched, he did it first off, but I got a bit confused, so I give up on that. I thought I'll do it at the end. Once you've located where this is, because you kind of, where the under tray is, you kind of look forwards at the car and you'll see the turbo onto the most, what I call the trickiest, annoying, frustrating part, and that is the C-clip. This arm has a little recess in it where the C-clip goes. Like I say, if you're watching this to do the job, maybe purchase a couple of C-clips. They're, I think, £3 or something like that each. definitely worth having in your armory, because the chances are when you take the one on the car off, it'll probably ping into the back of nowhere. I tried with a normal screwdriver, found out, well, like, I thought it was quite a small screwdriver. Apparently that was too big. Luckily I had an even smaller screwdriver, and unbeknown to me, it was also magnetic. So I kind of lost my, I wouldn't say lost my rag a little bit. I was just to the point of frustration where I just wanted to get the job done. It was taking too long. So got this really small screwdriver. I thought, if I have to buy another C-clip, I have to buy another C-clip. Kind of put it in there, pinged it off, and luckily for me, the C-clip stuck to the screwdriver afterwards, which, yeah, over the moon with. But as you'll see from this picture, little tiny diddly thing, and just enough room in there to get a little flat screwdriver and kind of flick it off. Like I say, just be careful you don't put too much pressure on this pokey out bit, I'm going to call it, because I think in the Land Rover manual it does say do not exert sideward force or something like that. So yeah, just be careful, because if this gets forced, it will break apparently. So just be careful with that. Once you've got the C-clip out, you'll then see a plate with multiple 10mm bolts all on it. And this is where I got a bit confused, because the video I watched only had, I think I only remember seeing like 3 and he called them 8mm bolts on his. So I don't know if this is a pre and post lift difference thing, but there was lots of, I'd say 6, maybe 8 10mm bolts. So trying to work out which ones I wanted to actually undo, I didn't have a clue. So rather than just sit there and try and work it out, I kind of went a bit Hail Mary, and just anything that was 10mm I started undoing. Anyway, it turned out that I managed to almost undo this bar 1 bolt, but pretty much undo the whole plate that it sits on. Luckily I managed to work it out, put some bolts in for the plate, so everything was fine there. But yeah, there's 3 bolts, but you'll find that one of them in particular is a bit obscured by the turbo heat shield. That was another thing. The car, the video I watched, didn't seem to have a turbo heat shield on it, which was a bit odd. But yeah, on our car we had a heat shield that kind of goes around the turbo. That one's got a 10mm bolt, but it's also got a washer on it. So that kind of helps you identify that as for the heat shield, make sure you put that one to one side. And then once you've got the heat shield, kind of lift it, push it or lift it out of the way. It's quite malleable, it's quite a soft metal. Just be a bit gentle, move it out of the way, and you should be able to get to the 3rd one. The tool that I used in our Halford toolkit, there is ratchet spanners in there. I used one of them for all the bolts in the end, and it actually worked out a treat. I think for some of them you can get a normal ratchet and socket in there, but yeah, the furthest one in particular, I think that would be a bit of a struggle. So I ended up using a 10mm spanner in the end, and that worked out a treat for them. So if you've just got a normal spanner, that will do. It'll just take a bit longer as you keep kind of move it a bit, take it off, move it back, move it a bit, etc, etc. So yeah, it's not impossible if you've just got a basic tool set. Once you've undone the 3 bolts, this will then wobble out. You'll eventually wiggle it out with this. It'll come out from the guide plate that it sits on. I don't know the technical name for it. I never know the technical names for things, but that's why you're watching this video, because you like hearing the not technical names. You're just left with this plug, and the guy's video that I watched, his had a different plug on it, and it threw me quite a lot. I ended up taking a video, really shaky video, of this plug because I was really struggling to work it out. But once this come away and I could see the whole plug in situ, I could then understand that it wasn't the plug I'd seen in the video. The plug I'd seen in the video had an orange little bit on it that you pulled back, and then I think the plug just come away. This one's different. It's just got 2 clips at the side of the plug that you push in, and then it should unlock it. But I think over the period of Salisbury mud, Billing, Muddy Weekender mud, Green Lane in mud, and everything in between, it had formed quite the seal between the connector and this socket. So no matter how much I pushed these bits in, it would not move. And I was thinking, have I got this wrong? How on earth do you get this off? In the end, I resorted to pushing the tongs in, then using a little plastic pry tool to put a bit of pressure on. And then all of a sudden, once you broke the seal between the mud and the connector, it soon come away. But thankfully, inside where the pins are, it's totally clean and dry. So it's not as if any ingress has gone inside the place where it shouldn't. But yeah, once that's off, you'll then be left with this little box, this turbo actuator, and in that way you get to find out all the codes on it. So if you go armed and you take pictures and send potentially the pictures off to Turbo Vanes or wherever you get your actuator from, then they should be able to match it up with one that they have in stock. What you could do is another option, and we didn't have time for it unfortunately, and probably the best case scenario is to actually package this up and then go, I think it's ECU repairs or something like that. I'll put it on screen, or I'll put a picture on screen. Basically you can get these sent off, they will then fix it, send it back to you, so you're putting the identical one on with the correct programming back onto your car, which at the end of the day is going to be a much better solution. So yeah, if you've got time to go down that route, I don't know how long it takes to turn around going that route. The thing is, we didn't have time at this point, so that's why we went to Turbo Vanes. Send it off to ECU repairs and they will hopefully fix up yours, send it back, and that way you just plug it back onto the car. You don't have to worry about anything more. When you've got your actuator back, or you've got your new one through the post, we've paid £100 deposit, so I'm going to get this sent off after this video so I can get my £100 back. Brand spanking new one through the post, match it up against the one that you've got just to make sure 100% that it is right, and then basically the refitting is reversal or removal, as the Haynes manual would say. It would be best at this point to have another hand, even if it's a neighbour or something like that, because getting the first bolt started, trying to put this in through the wheel arch and then reaching round, I've got chunky arms, I'm a chunky person, so I found that not possible. And then from underneath it was awkward to kind of put this into place and then kind of reach, like have one hand holding it in place, reach and trying to, I managed to get it started eventually, but it just took a bit of time, was a bit frustrating. 3 bolts, and then if you have taken the heat shield off, remember that 4th one to put that back into place. Don't forget the heat shield. At the end of the day, it's probably not essential, but it's good to have it in place. I don't know where the heat would end up going off to if that heat shield wasn't there, so don't forget about that one with the washer. Before you get to that, this just slots through. There's like a big hole, just slots through. Put it on, nuts in, nice and tight, and then you got a plug. I'm pretty sure it only goes on one way. I mean, I got paranoid, put it on and went, hang on a minute, how did I know if that was the right way? It has got a flat side and a round side, so I'm assuming the plug will only ever go on one way round and one way round only. Get that plugged in, and then you should, in theory, be set. I mean, it doesn't seem too clear on the forums when I was asking about whether these need to be basically programmed to the car, but I'd probably suggest that you do, like, go to someone with a computer that can let the car know that this has been replaced. I don't know how important it is, because when I took this out for a test drive and when we drove up to Grantham to Belvoir Castle for the Land Rover show, the car actually run fine. There was no lack of performance or no warning lights on the dash. Obviously when I cleared the codes, the engine management light went off, everything was fine. So I don't know how important it is. I know these Freelander 2s have a good habit of relearning bits and pieces. Luckily we went to Belvoir Castle, Warren took his posh snap-on computer there, went through a special functions program, I think it was, and in there I think was a turbo actuator part. He went through the steps in there and went, yep, that's done. Is it important to get it programmed? Don't know. I'll leave you guys in the comment section to comment that one out, if it is important or not. That's enough waffling from me. Hope this video was of some help and aided you towards hopefully doing it yourself, because like I say, with a lot of our jobs, we try and do the smaller jobs ourselves to save the money so we can put towards the bigger jobs that we can't do ourselves. Thank you very much for watching the video, much appreciated, and I'll catch you in the next video. See you later, everyone.